14 July 2023, we will have the reading of the issues showing respect to the courts and players having the case or issues. Have a good night. So we will have, first of all, you will invite you to please take a look. Risk Report 2023 tracejuly.blogspot.com. The headline, you observe that we offer the arguments based on the concept nemesis, which is something unavoidable, and the consequence against a crime series are unavoidable. But in general, the crime series acts with lack of all things, including the self-respect, and in many cases the self-determination on it by suppression. So we offered at least 5 opportunities to this crime system, have groups on it, separated and present reasons, or nominate ahead of all things to be at person on courts and offer the reason to be a criminal and be part of a criminal mobilization in global scale. We are kind of having that the consequences are not gonna be empty, arbitrary, made by arbitrariness or violence, but the opportunity is something that passes. And it's like this research. If you consider that it's a bullshit, you lost the opportunity. The paycheck is 38 trillion for storage and research. It doesn't make the owner who do the storage and the research as the right against the crime system that for sure I'm not part of it by everything I suffered and by my behavior. And we could have that the faithful trustee who hold the money like the bank or the judicial account must be reliable beyond the community eyes. We are working and we told since the very beginning to bring the Western fiduciary back, especially on bank system, as angle stone threatening all day during mostly all days. Then we will check that the dishonesty and all scams implied at least into a tremendous loss. And of course that the regression we offered allowed to go deep into all sources from segments, and it's flawless, codified by taxonomy, setting groups according with the complexity of criminal behavior. In this case, which was applied like this. The theory is authentic results depending judicial order and decision at institution, but all institutions are unable to make decision as self-sufficiency and independence autonomy against the organized crime without being affected by decisions made against the organized crime. We could have as proof the Blazing Act. The consequences are unavoidable. Has no excuse at all at the crime system, and heads are individualized. The crime system probably did things in an evil way, as part of their own development, underdevelopment as Brazil and peers, exploiting the misery and doing the management of this misery. It's all by facts, notorious facts. When we take a look on our diary, private, that in general no one should take a look at this, especially by violation of rights like the privacy and others that has no excuse to be violated, at least in Brazil. Cgqm MOUTINHO independent effort against the faulted arguments of the crime system. We'd like to have them totally punished, but having clear that has no unfairness, arbitrariness, nothing, all strictly legal. Again, arguments of the crime series formed by Brazil and peer from regular institutions and official architecture, and then we have the crazy requirements of USA and Europe here. Offered at least 5 opportunities as hearing procedure in order to support the defense of the criminal system and purpose. A red, segmented, by the paycheck with regression until checks, acting by very specific hands. They are doing order to perpetrate violation, suppression, and even murders or contamination, or protect, for instance, a sports player that killed a showgirl or something like this, or the political deputy, whatever. It's evidenced and proved by solidarity, at least in three different moments. The association of purpose, from regular area and official architecture, illegal, illegally made, because you need the blind association. You had the transparency all the time. You violated the international guarantee requested by this credit at least 5 opportunities. Article 5, guarantee 33. Illicit gains is part of your illicit workflow. And the final as solidarity, no reasons to justify systematic crimes and institutional violence as treasonous acts. The patterns we had: regular architecture, filing association, the purpose as association, the purpose as illicit gains, right? Now the silence about the situation after you got evidence. Or model we have now the crazy requirements of Europe and USA, just to make sure that we accomplish and we expect the same reciprocity, considering that, for instance, if one country, Brazil for instance, is a vagabond, for sure the America has the selfish indolence in things they do. They in general only consider themselves and help no one, except if they observe that you can take advantage of this, for instance. And this is the idea as organizational behavior, a social psychology as a field. You must have this on administration once in a while. We will check that you have 5 architecture here. Let's suppose that you are my 5 continents, can be the departments of my company, the offices of my companies, or my, my departments at the public service, whatever. And I will check that after I have this, I could observe that I had some kind of associations from inside, but not as the same pattern I have inside. And since I had the first one, and kind of they start to interact some way, I will observe that I have the second one even as a different thing. That in the very first moment are not interacting some way, but since they got the failure as corruption affected or equally, they started to interact some way, and then we formed the idea as pandemic mobilization of crime from the deep inside, considering the outside. Here, as you can observe, is out of my institution. But how can we highlight this, fight back, and do our self-defense, which was very complicated against Brazil, and for sure against the pandemic crime it will be something even more dangerous and worse. Then we have the requirement of USA and Europe, for instance. Can you, Mr. Researcher, do this, operating the coercion of them? I will try, my friend, I'm not God yet. So, we'll check like this. This behavior that she now got association on it, in general, at the institutional level as corruption, will set a bubble here in each one of them having the summit as purpose, as the interaction inside the thing, kind of interconnecting the structure, or at the outside in general, when they act against the outside, It's an institutional violence or wrongdoing. Failure since from the very beginning. If you make an entry by corruption and nepotism, it's like this. But as you can observe, the actions are isolated, are spreadedly, globally talking. But once in a while, they kind of start to have some kind of common interest or goal. Like events you have, for instance, considering these two continents are department, these other two. And once in a while you have events kind of putting them a bit more related and interacting with one very specific event or even a person as research. Right? Right. So let's suppose that I have an event here, which is a financial research at my private living. And you decide to do your aggression broken the area on my private living. And you decide to increase more. But every time you do this, since I have interest on it, and interest is traits, I will request a compensation against you. And you decide, for instance, to do the oppression of my entire activity, private space, made the aggression of my property, my relative, my circles, open the diary, and I decided, and I must do this as the entry on your entire activity. As you can observe, this behavior here you did is your illicit functional activity, considering the attributes you have ruled by corruption until form something as intent, factorial behavior as criminal result sourced by corruption. I did the opposite. I did the straight reply by constitution, considering my compensation as legal right to advance little by little inside the physiological argument that feeds this entire thing, to take them, choke you, and let you die dry, using the attributes by law according with the anti-crime purpose to set this model as factorial behavior, the integration of small pieces in each institutional segment by complementary with the interest to act against the organized crime, destroying you, humiliating you again and again, even offering the opportunity and defense that you are unable to present, offer, or having improved, has no legitimacy to justify or do the excuse of your behavior. Indeed, no dignity at all, and the lack of dignity. For instance, if you must do the dismiss in name of benefit and dignity of the public service, and you didn't, the dignity in some moments in life in each one of those variables do not exist. If it's part of the human condition, you are an animal during the period without the dignity as human condition, especially observed by your behavior as criminal behavior. According with the Lombroso, you are beyond the animal, below the animals. And I told that the criminal activity in the past as biological traces will be observed on present time as social cognitive elements. We are proving this. Your scam got down less than 24 hours and you will be list. I expect we are suffering all consequences affordable with all chances to justify your behavior, but you always decide to act by hoax, keeping violence, clandestine patterns. Anything else I can do? I'm expecting the same reciprocity with my compensation, legal rights, financial flow, negotiable instrument operated as factory, 1% of first trillion plus case, economic espionage and audit, from harassment of private living, Estimated total as 9 billion plus 1% first to trillion amount of money considering the financial penalties raised, increased by systematic aggressions 38 trillion. Have a great weekend.